You know what time it is, man. We back reacting to our podcast, Piece of the Collective.
Yeah, we
That's a
well,
good point.
well.
Yeah.
I think my original kind of like thing was not about race as so much as you mentioned Victoria's Secret and you mentioned overweight, obese women.
I never said obese. I said bigger.
And they're not obese. They're just
I'm
mean,
bigger
they're-
than her. Am I
naturally-
obese?
I mean, you're wearing a XL T-shirt, so I can't really assess. But I don't suspect you're obese.
Thanks.
You don't look
but I
obese.
wouldn't be in a Victoria's Secret ad.
You might. What do you mean you wouldn't be?
I would not fit the requirements to be in a Victoria's Secret ad, and I'm not
No.
obese.
Well,
I am bigger.
actually-
than
Victoria's Secret
women.
was canceled, so I think like that
But
was
even
it.
not
Victoria's
just,
Secret
like-
for what? So then learn even in anything, it packs on like any fucking ad. Like it's just
Yeah.
simple
I
modeling
think
requirements.
we have made. I mean, have you seen like the Victoria's Secret ads recently?
Calvin
they, like,
Klein
made
Oh,
like a. They have
I've seen the
like
Calvin
made
Klein,
like
yeah.
a really active push to have like bigger women on there, women of color, and
the one,
But they
the
still
one Paloma
have
Essler.
standards to be like how
Yeah.
tall you are.
They're
how
only
much
doing
you
that because
weigh,
they've
and,
been
like,
literally egged on for fucking years. They're not doing this out of the kindness of their own hearts. They're doing this to make money and to hope that people come to their stores again.
they are business.
Well, I'm about to say, well, they are a business, so of course they're doing it for money. It's not a charity, but let us carry on.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's to me, I think it's pretty shocking that, I mean, when you think of a Victoria's Secret model, you think of a certain thing. I mean, what was the thing with the Sports
I
Illustrated?
don't think that's shocking at all because they
No.
all look the same.
They all do.
That's
look the
exactly
same.
what you do. There are requirements on
No,
their website.
I'm
for
talking about
casting.
like the overweight. There was a runway model who's Victoria's Secret recently.
Why do you have to
No.
say overweight? Why can't
No.
you say bigger or like?
What?
There, it
Those
was
words are synonymous. Like, come on, man.
no
Well,
runway
not
for Victoria's
necessarily, but we all know what we talking about here.
Secret that's overweight because Victoria's Secret stopped doing runways years ago.
Yeah, because they got canceled for it.
Years ago.
Years
I'm
ago.
pretty sure, Eric. Can you try to
But yeah, I was
find?
gonna
There's
say,
like
can we like see a photo?
Victoria's Secret.
What about the
overweight.
Fendi shows? Like those are.
But that's
those are
different
lovely.
because
Wi-Fi tweaking. Let me change the Wi-Fi real quick, y'all. Give me 1 second. What's up, Twitch? What's up, YouTube? 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. All right, how we looking? We back.
See,
Rihanna,
that's Rihanna, a
that she's
black
trying to push
woman.
it. I mean, look at how
She's
many
doing it.
look at how many shades she made. Like
Well,
if you
I-
look
She did
back,
that because
so
she
it's
was
just
a
a
person.
good-
She was a woman of color.
I'm not a
a
representative
larger
of BS,
weight.
guys. I was just saying,
No,
like,
no,
isn't
no.
that a good thing that Fendi is like popular?
it
People
is,
love
but
it?
you
Yeah,
also have to
it's very
understand
white
that's
people.
it didn't come from
Rihanna.
Rihanna, and she
I
knew that
know,
there
I
were
love
so many
Rihanna.
different like.
I don't think she's trying to like go against. I think
wasn't-
she's trying to bring up.
I
a
was just
company
saying, like,
who-
isn't that great that like Fendi?
Well, I was also gonna bring up, like-
it
stuff.
definitely
Like
is,
we
yeah.
have black-owned businesses,
Yeah.
like, leading the
Exactly.
beauty industry. That's.
I
good
was
thing.
gonna bring up
That's great.
Skims,
Eric-
Skims, because she
Eric-
also kind of does like the same thing.
Hold on, guys.
Yeah.
you
Eric,
know?
can you pull up? Actually, search for the Calvin Klein, say plus size ad, and just show us all. What? Pull up that very first one, the New York Post one. All right, she's obese.
What classifies obese?
Yeah.
She's obese.
I don't know why females try to act slow when it comes to these type of subjects. What do you mean? What classifies you as obese? Like, come on, man.
I mean,
Do you have her doctor on the line?
she.
You don't need, like, bro. When people are looking like this, you don't need to have their doctor on the line to decide whether or not they are probably or obese or not. Like, come on.
is. I have eyes.
Like, obesity is something that's apparent to like he said, he has eyes. Something that's apparent to the eyes, my nigga. Like, come on.
Oh.
So I don't think we should be glamorizing obesity.
I don't
It's
think
not
anybody's
glamorizing
glamorizing
obesity.
obesity.
You just have to understand that there are so many people that will look just like her. That doesn't mean she's obese. But then
she
you
is
also
obese.
need to remember
She's by
there are people
definition
that
obese.
also
Y'all find me someone that looks like that and isn't obese. Like, do they not know the definition of the word?
that are her size that also want to buy Calvin Klein, and before they couldn't, and now they're advertising that they actually are capable of putting out
You just said it
production.
Bro, just because they weren't advertising it as much prior before doesn't mean that these women couldn't go buy Calvin Klein. It's not like they didn't have XL, XXL, triple XXL clothes or underwear. Like, come on now.
of that.
You just said it yourself. They're businesses. So they're going to advertise in the way that'll make them money. A lot of their clientele are people of this size. So why would they not put them in their ads?
Exactly.
What is only white
What
skinny
does
people are allowed to buy?
Obese have to do with anything.
Yeah.
It's just that's the size she is. You want to see
I mean, they're a business. It's probably smart for them to do that, I guess, right?
your size also being represented and know that you can also go and buy the same products as other people.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to get at because I know what Brian's trying to get at here, but I feel like
Mhm.
this is a bad example because like Calvin Klein is they're just selling to their audience. If their audience is fat or like weighs more than they are advertising
I
people
feel-
that weigh more.
You know
I
what,
know
though?
you're
I'm-
talking about glamorizing, which is
let's talk about
different.
finances. I'm not even convinced that this is necessarily going to make them more money. I realize that they're
It might make them some more money. I ain't gonna lie to you.
businesses and it's corporations, and obviously they want to make money, but you have to understand that corporations have been infiltrated by these sort of by the woke movement and by these diversity, what is it, DEI, diversity, equity, include, I don't know what it's called, but so it's not clear to me that they're actually making more money by doing this.
I think it's about acknowledging inclusivity.
It's
I
not
don't
about
I don't think
making
it's
money.
glamorizing whatsoever, but it's acknowledging like, hey, you can still buy from us. We want to make sure that you
feel comfortable.
you feel comfortable and that you're included in what we're trying to sell. And I think
Yeah.
that's why they're promoting
Which is smart on their side. Yeah, I mean, go get the cake from everybody. Why not?
more with girls who are bigger than like the normal size or girls who aren't just white.
I
Okay.
agree.
Oh, sorry.
Not necessarily a normal size, but bigger than a healthy size.
Sorry, I totally agree with that, but I think it's a domino effect, especially with businesses. I agree with you. I don't think that necessarily it will increase their revenue.
Mhm.
However, I do think the media affects their whole business. If the media doesn't agree with you, they will rip you to shreds and goodbye to your business. If
I
they
think-
go along with what people want,
I guess that's true to an extent, but what is this, Calvin Klein, or what are you talking about, Victoria's Secret, whatever it is, those are both pretty established businesses. I don't think social media could shut them down unless they made some outrageous remarks.
you to be advertising, then maybe they'll buy your product, but that consideration is worth something versus just a no.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. Say that like if you're a smoker and you feel like shamed in society, should we have like advertisements glamorizing like cigarettes and things like that?
That's a good point that she just made, because it's not necessarily about inclusivity, but obesity is not a healthy lifestyle. Like, even when you compare it to cigarettes, more people on average, I don't have the stats on hand, but more people probably lose their life to obesity than people do to cigarette smoking. I mean, neither one of those are a healthy lifestyle. So should we necessarily be advertising that to the world? Like,
To make people who do smoke feel more glamour, feel like more welcomed, and like they can live their life how they want to live their life, even if it's actually killing
I
them.
personally think that is a completely far-fetched comparison.
I
Smoking
don't.
isn't smoking
she obviously doesn't have the capacity to conceptualize the analogy that she just made.
is a substance. It's
Obesity.
a
Food's a
chemical.
substance.
Excuse me. Smoking is a
Smoking is a substance. Food is a substance. What's the point?
substance. Obesity is something that you live
Yeah,
with.
we don't
every
need
single
the
day.
attitude. We don't need the attitude.
What?
There's no attitude.
There's no
She's just
attitude.
trying to
No,
say
just the
what
way
she
you
has to
said
say.
excuse me. Just like, if I interrupted, that's fine, but go ahead. I don't need the attitude. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, tell him, Brian. Tell him.
Continue.
Okay.
Just the way you
Um,
said excuse me is like, go on.
Okay.
Continue.
Anyway, I feel like smoking is a substance, and yes, food is a substance as well.
So you just debunked your own point. Like, what are you getting at this point?
It's something that you ingest and you choose to do, but you don't walk around and you don't look at someone. If they don't have a cigarette on them, you don't know they're a smoker. If you look at someone who's obese,
I mean, depending on the severity of the consumption of cigarettes that they can, I mean, the amount of cigarettes that they consume, you sometimes can't tell that people are smokers. I mean, it has effects to the body as well.
you know
But for the most part, I do agree. You can't just look at somebody and tell that they're a smoker nonetheless. But
they're
that's beside the point.
obese. So they live with that constantly, all the time.
But that's something that they choose to live with. If you don't want to be obese, you don't have to be obese. It's not like you're born obese and you have to stay that way for the rest of your life. This is something that you have 1,000% control over. Like, you're the one that decides to eat as much as you do. You're the one that decides to eat things that you do. You're the one that decides to neglect physical health. You're the one that decides to not work out. Like, it's one thing to eat, it's another thing to not be physically active, and that's just going to add on top of it. It's making a bad situation worse.
But why
And it's not necessarily about how these people look. It's about the effects that it has to their health. Like, we don't want a society of, like, look at America today. 60%, or probably it's probably above 60% today, but 60% of this society in America is obese. That's not necessarily a healthy thing. Like, why do you think so many people are dropping like flies due to cardiovascular issues? I mean, the more you eat, yeah, I mean,
is, if it's something they can control and they can like not be obese if they want to not be obese, then
But
But
a
it's
lot of
not
people
that
can't
easy actually because of severe mental illness.
it is that easy, bro. If you don't want to be obese, you don't have to be obese. Like, it's literally a lifestyle choice. Like, what do you mean it's not that easy?
it's not
Binge
easy to
eating-
quit
binge eating
smoking
disorder is a
either, but
very
that doesn't mean we
serious
should be
mental
glamorizing
issue.
smoking.
But
Exactly, yes,
but you
but-
agree we're glamorizing people who are like overweight? Or also, like, I don't think we should put a negative connotation on calling someone fat. Like, I think it's our choice to, if you're fat and skinny are just descriptive words, I don't think there needs to be a negative connotation. So like, if
Definitely
a
not.
woman is fat, like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I don't feel like advertising
She sounds based.
women who are fat or overweight, like, I don't feel like it's glamorizing it. And just like, I don't think
Putting it on a billboard is not glamorizing it.
putting a skinny woman is glamorizing it either, but like, that's just how media portrays it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you don't think putting skinny women and only skinny women as models in ad isn't glamorizing being skinny, then I thought that's what we were saying earlier, is that we grew up in the 2000s, everyone in a magazine was skinny, and to us that felt like glamorizing. That's what we thought was okay. And
Because
what
I
was-
feel like
Well,
once you get to a
glamorizing
certain
and enforcing
point,
a beauty standard are very different things.
No brand has the ability to enforce any beauty standards. Nothing, like, they're not the law. Well, like, what is she talking about glamorizing and enforcing? It's not like this is written in scripture, in a law, that you have to be skinny. Like, what does she mean? They don't have the ability to enforce anything.
and also to a certain point, after so many years of pushing that like standard, then like why can't we have more of a diverse community being shown and portrayed? Because that's what you walk around with every single day, but that's not what you see in ads.
Yeah.
So does that mean we should have ads for like other things that are just unhealthy? My thing is just like the unhealthy part of it. So like,
Exactly. That's the whole point behind it. It's not about how you look or this, that, and the third. It's about the defects that's going to have to your health. Like, come on now. We don't want to push that.
like that means it's important to have ads with people doing heroin. A certain like population of the like a certain percentage of the population does heroin, like does things that are like plenty unhealthy. Does that mean that that's a
Right. And you look at a person and tell that this motherfucker does heroin now. Do we need to be inclusive to them as well and compensate for their feelings as well? Or is it only for people that deal with obesity?
we should be like promoting an advertisement?
But that's also
No, but
completely different.
that's very different.
It's not different. How is it different? Like, how is it different? They're both two unhealthy lifestyles. Her point is that we should not be advertising an unhealthy lifestyle to in the media, because that's not gonna create a healthy society. Like, what do you mean it's very different? They're actually exactly the same. They're both looking the way that they are due to what they're consuming, and it's all the choice.
I don't
because like
understand how
heroin you can get
and
addicted to,
being
but like when
larger-
You can get addicted to eating too. People have eating disorders. It's the same thing. Like, you can get addicted to heroin, you can get addicted to eating. Like, it's the same thing. And obesity is a telltale sign that you're addicted to eating. You can control the amount of calories that come into your system. Like, come on now.
you're also obese, some people are just naturally born like that, and when they grow up,
Nobody's naturally born like that, bruh. Like, that shit does not make any fucking sense. What do you mean you're naturally born obese? Like, I've never seen that as a diagnosis that somebody got. Like, what do you mean you're naturally born like that? It's a lifestyle choice, man. Maybe you're more prone to obesity, but that doesn't mean you have to stay obese. Maybe it's harder for you to lose weight, but that doesn't mean that you cannot lose weight. Maybe it's harder for you to keep a healthy body, but it doesn't mean that you're incapable of it. Like, she's not making any sense.
they just can't get out of it because that's what they've been born into, and that's all they know.
or
That-
chronic
that-
illnesses.
Or
You
they
don't have the
literally
ability to
have-
lose weight.
yeah.
Bro, obesity is not a chronic illness. Like, these women are, man.
PCOS.
but
A lot of women know about that. Sorry. Eating disorders, binge eating disorders, those can stem from other places that aren't.
Yeah, now we're talking about disorders, and that's so we can all agree that a disorder is something that's wrong with somebody, correct? So therefore, these people need help, and advertising that lifestyle is not going to help them. If you're going to proclaim that it's a disorder, then you agree to the point that these people need help, that they're not necessarily in a healthy or great situation. Like, come on now, she's contradicting herself.
Addiction to food. It can come from serious shit that happened in your childhood, and you rely on this to help you. It's an illness, agreed. But
if you agree that it's an illness, then you agree that these people need help. That this is not like, that's like looking like, man, let us carry on. This woman is just she's not making any sense.
It's not completely the same as things like a cigarette. They're two definitely illnesses, definitely substances, but they're two very different things.
Well, I think the cigarette comparison is actually quite apt because we've taken steps to stop cigarette advertisements.
Yeah, good point. Because we have
This actually is a great point. We have taken steps to stop cigarette advertisement because it's an unhealthy lifestyle, and it has a lot of health defects that come along with that lifestyle, which is likewise to obesity.
okay, so we saw that. Okay,
Let me just add one
Yeah.
thing really quick, and then I'll and I think you can actually make the argument that obesity is a much bigger problem now than cigarette smoking. It's a far greater cause of early mortality.
Did I not say that earlier in the video? Let us carry on.
I think
I haven't looked at the stats, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
I
more
think
people
it's
die of
greater in
obesity
America, though.
Yeah,
than of
definitely.
like lung disease from smoking.
Yeah, sure. So if we talk about like the United States, go back 50 years maybe, and a vast majority of the population smokes. Everyone goes along with it. It's glamorized. It's normal. It's, people can't help it, whatever. We finally have research that shows how bad it is for your health. And then we go on decades-long campaign that takes a long time to get smoking out of Calvin Klein ads, because it's not, it's not something that should be glamorized. We put education in school so people understand how bad it is for you. And now we know that being overweight and obese has similarly catastrophic effects for your health. Why are we not on a campaign now of like encouraging people in every domain to avoid having this lifestyle habit?
These women don't understand that it's profitable for them to encourage obesity, not necessarily clothing brands. I mean, you could say clothing brands, but people are going to buy it regardless of whether they're obese or not. But more so for the food market industry, because people are going to buy these unhealthy foods which cause obesity. And if we encourage them to eat healthy, then a lot of these food markets are not going to be as profitable as they are. They don't understand that they're being used to profit off of, and they think it's just an inclusive thing, and it's not about inclusivity, bro. We're talking about health issues. We're talking about society on a large scale.
I
Something
think
like
we
that.
definitely are encouraging it, just like we encourage people not to do heroin.
Is putting an obese woman on a billboard of Calvin Klein?
I don't think it's encouraging you to want to be
I don't
fat.
think it's
I don't
yeah.
think it's
No one's like,
encouraging, but
oh,
it's
I'm
not
gonna be
dis-
fat.
It's not necessarily encouraging you to want to be fat, but it's normalizing it. It's making it something that is societally okay, and that's a bad thing, because if people think that it's okay to be obese, then there's going to be more people that are that and that have to deal with these cardiovascular issues and that live a shorter life because of it. I mean, when the last time you seen a 300-pound old lady, 90-year-old lady, 300 pounds? Never, 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 never. It's never happened before. Never happened before. Somebody let me know. It's never happened before. So if you want to live a life full of longevity, like you have to have an adequate body weight and an adequate body fat percentage for you to be able to do so.
Encouraging it.
Well, I
And
think
that takes discipline. Like you that's one of the telltale signs that show that you have no discipline. You can't even control what you eat. You can't control how many calories that you take into your body. You can't control how much that you weigh. That shows that you have no discipline. So are we going to just cater to everybody that has no discipline?
it's
That
more
goes
about
on to, the cigarette smokers, heroin addicts, and this, then the third. These people have issues. They have a problem. Therefore, we need to help them fix their problem, not encourage them that their problem is okay and that we should be more inclusive to all these people with issues.
No
and-
one, if you're a fat person, never do you see an image of another fat person and say, thank God there's another fat person. I feel so great about being
I
fat
thought
now.
you guys just
But isn't that the whole point of like? Isn't that the whole marketing scheme behind putting fat people on billboards for brands? Like, isn't that the whole point, to make them feel like, hey, it's okay to be this way. Come shop with us because we can cater to you and that you're this way. Like that defeats the whole point of the conversation that they're having here. Like, what do you mean?
told me though
No,
that was
I
the
didn't
whole
say-
point
no,
of having
no.
overweight women
Well,
in
No,
advertising.
it was
so
about
they
it
could
was
feel
about being
comfortable.
I'm
I
not
thought
the
you told
only
me
one.
that.
No, it's about showing that, you know what?
See, her shorty right here in the red understands that she just contradicted herself. That's why she just made that face. But let's carry on. Even shorty right here in the middle kind of understands. Shorty right here in the XXL white tee, she just wants to talk. She just likes to hear herself talk. She doesn't know what she's saying.
Other people can do this and they can be pretty and you still feel like shit. You still feel like
So
shit.
if the ads don't do anything, why do we have them up there? If it doesn't make
Exactly.
people
If the ads don't do anything, then what is the point of the ads?
look like
people
that,
ask
feel
for them. I don't know.
in
I'm
a
not
good
an
way.
obese person.
Now
so
she doesn't know because she's not an obese person. So why are you even having this conversation? Why didn't you start out by saying that? Like this doesn't. You've been trying to advocate for them this whole time. Like so, how now you don't know because you're not obese? Like I said, this woman just likes to hear herself talk. She makes absolutely zero sense.
I have to think. I do think they want to feel included. I do think they want to see that image of themselves, and I do feel like
like
they're
validation.
yeah, and I do think that makes them feel good to see it. And on your point, I do agree. On a health standpoint, we shouldn't be promoting that. But it's like, where is the line where when people are being called unbeautiful or not beautiful, like, and we're supposed to agree with them and say
What is she's like? What is? Let me let her
like,
finish.
okay, you're not just because you're overweight. But yeah, on a health standpoint, I do agree. Like at that sense, yeah, it's not healthy. So like,
What's more important? What's more important, your health or your perception to other people? Like, let's speak on what's important here. Nobody gives a fuck about how you perceive the other people, and they're gonna perceive you as fat because 9 times out of 10, if you're obese, you're gonna get called fat. People are gonna look at you and think, "Oh, so and so is fat," but it's not about what you look like. It's about the health effects that come with it. If being fat didn't come with any cardiovascular issues, it didn't come with diabetes, it didn't come with this, that, and the third, and a shorter lifespan, then nobody would actually give a fuck. Nobody would. But the whole point is you're eating yourself to an early death. That's the whole point that we're making here. That's the whole argument. It's all about health. It's not about what other people perceive you as. It's about what's actually going on internally within your body.
where how do you market that and get someone to be like, I feel good and it's okay for me to be
But
that
it's
way?
not okay for you to be that way. That's the whole point. You just agree from a health perspective that it's detrimental. So how is it okay if it leads to an unhealthy life? How is it okay? It's not okay.
Or they feel like
Yeah.
shit at the end of the day.
I agree that I don't think like shaming people, calling them ugly is a way to make people healthy.
I don't know. To an extent, I feel like shaming people does help them look at a different perspective. Like shame will make somebody like, I mean, obesity is a shameful thing. Like you're eating yourself to an early death. Why are we acting like it's not a shameful thing? Like people are too concerned about their feelings and don't really care about what's going on in reality, because in reality you're eating yourself to an early grave. Like you're gonna have to deal with so many other issues that you wouldn't otherwise have to deal with if you lived a healthy lifestyle and if you maintain the healthy weight for your body. The bone structure was not created to carry 400 pounds of fat. Like it just wasn't, bruh. It just wasn't. That's why you see like on all these shows, like on all these 400 plus shows and this, that, and the third, a lot of these motherfuckers not sitting here walking around. They're not able to move the way that people that are not overweight move. They're not. A lot of these motherfuckers are in wheelchairs and shit. A lot of these motherfuckers lose their feet. They lose their arms and shit. Like that's not healthy.
strongly feel like to get to health, to like get to a healthy weight, it has to come out of self-love, not self-hate.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think like the more that we say it's okay to be obese, you can feel welcome and included in like American society being obese. I just, I don't know if people understand how diabetes, you can lose your limbs when you have diabetes.
Yeah.
It's something that I just
Sometimes
don't
it's
think
not
we
a
should-
choice though.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
it's
just
really
end up with diabetes.
I think it's but I don't think 60%.
Sometimes it is not a choice. Some people do end up with diabetes that aren't considerably overweight, but that's due to other issues. And sometimes, I don't know, is diabetes hereditary? Somebody let me know in the comments. But 9 times out of 10, majority of the people that end up with diabetes do end up in that situation because they have an inability to control their eating habits. It's mostly a choice. Like we can speak about the minority of people that end up with diabetes that don't necessarily overindulge in unhealthy food, but that's the minority, and exceptions don't break the rule.
Of Americans have no choice but to be obese. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like there is room there to, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of motivation, but demotivating cannot be helpful.
Ultimately, look, the whole thing, some people have health, there's genetic predispositions, but for the vast majority of people who are overweight, it's calories in, calories out. It's about
Thank you. I just said that.
choices. So you can, I have mild hypothyroidism. That makes it more difficult for me to lose weight. But ultimately, if I'm not adhering to a strict diet, I'm going to gain weight. So a lot of people, some people have, I've got
It
injuries.
all comes down to discipline. It all comes down to self-control, which every human adult should be able to maintain for themselves.
Too. That limits my ability to be more active, burn calories. So, but look, it's ultimately, there's very rare diseases or medical conditions which would result in you being overweight and you having no control over it. Calories in, calories out, calorie deficit. It's all that. Let's move on just because